This video is produced for the use of all students enrolled in the EPO 322 Diesel Engineering 2 simulation course held at the California Maritime Academy. This is the first of 4 tutorials covering how to complete Lesson 3 using the Kongsberg Diesel Simulator. Now, in Lesson 3, we're going to change over the fuel supply to the oil-fired boiler from MDO, which is a light distillate, to heavy fuel oil, which is a residual fuel, heavy residual fuel. We're going to pressurize and circulate the liquid or the fuel in the fuel oil system, and we are going to change over from light distillate to heavy fuel oil right at the dock using the auxiliary generator, the ship service diesel generator. We're also going to start filling of the heavy fuel oil service tank using the heavy fuel oil purifiers, separators. Again, we're going to utilize number 2 to gradually change over the fuel system from distillate to heavy, and we're going to start also filling of the marine diesel oil service tank. Now, one of the things that we need to talk about is with the changeover in fuel in recent time, there's been quite a bit of problems that they've been having. Now, in this scenario, we're in Korea, say. We're in the Ulsan shipyard. We're at the wet dock. There is no regulations against burning of heavy fuel oil within Korea at this time. Now, there are restrictions, especially in California and in Europe, where you either have to, in Europe, you have to burn a low sulfur heavy, and in some cases, interior waters, you have to burn clean distillate. To California, where if you're 200 miles off, you have to be burning, right now, basically a low sulfur distillate fuel. And there have been considerable amount of problems with this. This is not a minor issue. This is a major issue right now, and it's something that is a big topic. Now, one of the things that you have an advantage is here at the CMA, we prepared a report on some of the problems that they're having, and that report is available on Moodle. And it's actually also available as a download from the California Air Resources Board. I very, very highly recommend that you go over this report. It gives a lot of good information on the types of problems that we're having and what you may see as you go out in the industry even as a cadet. So pay attention to this. This is not a small matter. Number 3, typically the students have a problem with. They don't understand the difference in these fuels. This is not gasoline. You just don't put gas in the tank and drive away. Some of the heavy residual fuels that you're burning on the ships today go to an absolute solid, rock solid, at room temperature. So if you don't understand your fuels, you're not going to get very far. All right, let's look at the simulator itself. When we're starting up, and I'm going to be pausing here because there's quite a bit of discussion on this one. But let's, the first thing we're going to do is we're starting up the fuel oil system. So we're going to put our circ pumps on and our supply pumps. Then there's not much in here that we need. Let's go over to feeders. In the feeders, we're going to need the power for the separator. You notice these are cross. They didn't leave themselves enough spares, so they decided to graphically do it that way. And I think that's about it. Diesel oil purifier there. All right. Now, one of the things that we're going to be doing is looking at changing over of the boiler to a distillate fuel, from distillate to heavy. So we'll go to boiler combustion. Now again on this, you can do this in Asia. There's no restrictions against doing this. Distillate fuels are much more expensive than residual. So in real life, this was what I would be doing as soon as I was bringing the ship up to be able to keep costs down. So the first thing we got to look at is we'll come over and line up the fuel. We're going to go off the heavy fuel oil service tank. It's still pretty cold, by the way. 39 is barely being able to move it. That's 40 C. But that is, we can pump it at that temperature, but I wouldn't try to pump it down or pump it less than that. And you notice the set point on this is 65 degrees C. Now, while we're here, we're going to line it up also to the fuel oil system as well as the boiler. So here's our fuel oil system. We're going to line it up on the distillate and heavy to both. Let's go back to the boiler. Now, once we've got the fuel lined up, we can go ahead and start it. We should see a flow rate. And you notice you have steam tracing on here. The dotted blue line is steam tracing. That can be, in this case, the way they've got it designed, this is going to be steam. But in some ships also, they're using jacket water. Now, once we have flow, we can go ahead and open up the steam to the heater, and the set point is already put in for you. So while we're waiting for that, let's go look at our fuel system. Now I'm going to halt it here while we talk about this. On this system, we can burn heavy fuel oil or distillate. Now, the 100%, you can see with the three-way valve that we're on distillate, we're going to be switching this over to heavy. That fuel is going to come in, it's going to go through this supply pump, through the meter. This is actually an emulsification system that is used if you're trying to lower NOx. It's by way of putting water into the fuel, act as to cool down the combustion process and produce less oxides of nitrogen. And then it goes through a circulation pump, through the fuel oil heater. This is a back flushing filter. This is the type that has candles, and when one of the strainers gets dirty, it automatically switches to a new one. The bypass filter would only be used when you're cleaning the main filter. Then it goes through the viscometer. This measures the viscosity of the fuel. It comes up, and this branch goes to the diesel. It would come in here, down this way, go to the engine, this is the representation of a high pressure fuel pump, and then you notice it returns back to the fuel system. Alright. Now, it returns back to the fuel system here. That's why you have 2 meters. When the engine is running, to get the actual fuel consumption, you're going to subtract this meter from that meter, and the difference is how much fuel was consumed. This is a recirculation system. This valve right here, you notice it's the representation for electrical solenoid. That would, if you wanted an emergency shut-off and you trip this, that would shut off the main fuel to the main engine. Then you have a back pressure regulating valve. Now, the back pressure regulating valve sets the pressure at the inlet of the pumps at 7.5 bar, which is pretty typical. And then that comes back down this way and returns to the pump. So this is our recirculating, and I'll start it up. You'll see that it circulates. Now, this valve would be very rarely used. If this was set up to go back to this way, it would return the fuel back from the fuel oil system back to the heavy fuel oil service tank. This is prohibited unless it's an emergency. The companies all will tell you not to do this unless you have no choice. So normally it's always going to recirculate back. Now, let's go ahead and we'll start this up for a second and we'll start the system up. So I'm going to get her back to running. I want to go to distillate, so you actually go to 0 and you see how it shifts. I can start up number 1 supply pump. We'll see the pressure come up. We'll briefly see a flow through the meter as it's putting some fuel in. Once I have a pressure on the suction to the pumps, I'm going to go ahead and start a circ pump up. Oh, sorry, I should have lined this up. Here's it through the heater, through the back flush filter. Now we'll see a flow. Once you have the pump running, you also put on your viscometer. Now, one of the things I want you to notice is 0 flow rate into the system. Again, 0 flow rate into the system. You've got a pressure reducing station here, and look at that. That's all your flow, right? So you're not getting a flow into the system. Now, good, this is all right. Now, what's going on is normally it will come up with a viscosity that's quite low. I'm glad this happened. This is the other type that can happen is I came up with very, very heavy fuel. 47 centerstoke, and we have to be down in this 12-16 centerstoke range to operate. So this is the unusual case that happens occasionally. Now, I don't plug this in. This is actually just the way the simulator starts up. Let's go ahead and halt this. Sometimes it comes up with pure distillate, sometimes it comes up with pure heavy, most of the time it comes up something in between. You have to deal with the fuel that you are given. So that's one of the constraints on this. But what I want you to notice is the fuel, 4.7 tons per hour, is flowing through this system, right? And it's going right back to the pump. So this is a circulating system. And then what I want you to notice is that there is 0 flow into this. This is just circulating right back to the suction of the pump. And that is through this regulating valve. All right, we're going to hold it here and continue on with the next section of this lesson. Thank you.